Hello, where are you from?
America.
And what's your ethnicity?
I'm white.
Like your parents are European?
Yes, my mom is French.
Okay, and what's your religion?
I don't have one. I'm an atheist.
Okay, are you pro-Palestinian?
Absolutely.
Okay, so go ahead. Please tell me what the Palestinians are going through.
Well, I think I
And
just
please
heard
hold on
I
one thing, one thing. Just use TikTok friendly words. Go ahead.
I think yeah. Again, I just heard your disopinion on a G side, but I think there is a G side. But the bigger problem is displacement of the civilians. Now, Israel.
Okay, hold on. I have a question. Just question.
Sure.
Where? Where
So right
displacement?
now, Gaza has been leveled because of shells and explosives that Israel has used to attempt to eliminate the bad people in Gaza and West Bank. Right? Can we agree with that? Let's find
West Bank hasn't been leveled.
let's find level ground first between you and me. Do you think that Gaza is in ruins? Yes or no?
Gaza is, but dude, hold on, dude. I'm asking you. This is not like I'm asking you to tell me what you think the Palestinians are going through. You said
Displacement, G
you
side,
said okay,
displacement and G side. I answered that already. Listen,
okay. All right. Okay. First of all, if the Israelis are G-siding the Palestinians, they're doing a very bad job at
I
it.
disagree.
Hold
They're
on.
very good at it.
Can I please get a word in edgewise?
Sure, go
Because
ahead.
basically very small population of their population has been unalive compared to their total population. So G sides, usually in G sides, it's a large part of the population. I mean, in all G sides it is, not a
Okay.
small part of the population. So, I think honestly this is a pathetic G side.
So then if
And
that's your
also, hold
definition,
on,
hold
breaking.
on, no, 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 no,
I'm
no.
not
We're
done.
not
I'm
gonna
not
do
done.
that. Hold
You're
on,
not
you
going to
you
talk over
made a
the.
definition.
Okay. Bye.
Hold
You're
on,
not
you
going
made
to
it.
the host. Also, the Israelis' goal is not to exterminate them. Their goal is to fight H group. So on the G side, the intention has to be to exterminate the people. That's not the goal there. I removed you because you kept on talking over me. And in my live, you don't talk over the host. Okay? If you want to come back and you promise not to talk over me, then you can come back, but you can't talk over the host. Are you going to talk over me? I don't want to debate you. I want to have a civil conversation. I don't debate people. I have civil conversations. Okay, you can come back. Let's see if this will work. So, anyways, so the point
Okay.
is, but I
I'm
don't want to
sorry. Go
keep
ahead.
debating whether it's a G side or not because that's just an opinion we're probably not going to agree on. But the point is, you said that people are displaced. So where you think they're displaced where?
Well, again, we need to find level ground to have a logical
Dude,
conversation.
I don't want love level ground here. I just want you to tell me. I want you to tell me where people are displaced at.
Okay, well, America is trying to displace them to Egypt and Jordan right
Okay,
now,
so
at
they
this
have
very moment, and
okay.
they've been moved all the way. Let me
Quiet.
answer
I
the
have a
question.
question.
Let me answer the question, please.
Breaking. I have a
Please let
question.
me finish my answer, and
Oh
then you
my
can ask a
god.
new
Oh
one.
my god. I can't have a conversation with this guy. I have to ask a question before he goes on a 10-minute rant. The bottom line is, he said America is trying to displace, but nobody's been displaced yet. That was my only point. Nobody's been displaced yet. So, like, this is a two-way conversation. This is not you going on a speech. So what I want to know is where people have already been displaced. Which I want to clue you in on something. I do agree there's been some displacement, but I'm not going to do your job for you and tell you whether people have been displaced. Okay, I'm giving Breaking Biker one more chance. Okay, you have one more chance. Remember, if I interject and ask a question, you have to let me interject because we're going through points pretty quickly because we don't have all day for this.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I'm not gonna go on any
Hold
rant.
on. Host is talking. Host is talking. Again, there is possibly going to be displacement in Gaza, but again, there's been displacement to different parts of Gaza, but there isn't the mass displacement hasn't happened yet. So that is a possible, but it hasn't happened yet. So we're not talking about possibles. We're talking about things that have actually happened. So where has there been displacement? Go ahead.
At the beginning of this conflict, the Gazans specifically have been displaced all the way to the west, closer to the Egyptian border, after Israelis have given them warnings about shellings and saying you need to move here, 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 and here. and then bombing those same roads. Excuse me.
Okay, boom, booming. You have to use TikTok funny words.
Of course,
Okay,
then damaging those same areas and roads. They've been
okay, so
damaging
you're saying
buildings
they've been moved to different parts of the strip. So you're
so far.
saying, so basically
Yes.
you're saying that they had been moved to different areas, but that's for their own safety because there's a war going on. Okay,
Then
so and any other displacement of Palestinians?
yes, the West Bank.
Okay, so what's happened in the West Bank?
The same problem. They're telling them where to go, and then they're shelling those areas, including mosques, main roads, hospitals, and
Hold on,
schools.
they're shelling the mob. They're telling them. Hold on, what? Huh? They're
They're
telling.
is
Hold on,
Israel
hold
is
on, hold on,
telling West
hold on, hold
Bank.
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. I have a question. Let me
Sure.
just read this. They're telling them where to go, and then they're shelling the
Those
area.
areas.
Is there
Those
a
areas.
war?
Yes.
Is there a war in the West Bank that I don't know about?
Right now, absolutely.
There's a war in
Yes.
the West Bank. What is the name of this war in the West Bank? Because wars have names.
It's the same conflict.
It's the Israel age group war in the West Bank.
No, they're just shooting. They're just attacking the Palestinians.
You
There's
have to
no
use,
age
if you
group
don't
there.
use any more TikTok, if you start
I'm
using any more un-TikTok friendly words, I'm gonna have to remove you. So they're
understood.
QQing the Palestinians. So you're saying they're shelling the Palestinians. What cities is this happening in?
The West Bank.
Well, the West Bank is not a city; it's an area. What city?
Whatever, that area
What?
of
Which cities?
Palestine.
Which cities?
I don't know the names off the top of my head. I know that they've breached the ceasefire and been attacking
There's a
civilians
ceasefire.
in West Bank.
What ceasefire in the West Bank?
There was no ceasefire in the West Bank. There was a ceasefire against the war between H Group and Israel. Yet they're attacking civilians in West Bank.
But they're okay. Dude. All right. First of all, there was not a ceasefire between H Group and Israel, like completely.
Yes, there
I'm
was.
making that. The host is talking. There's a ceasefire between H Group and Israel in Gaza. The West Bank has not had a ceasefire. Okay, so H Group is still operating in the West Bank and still doing T attacks along with everybody else who's doing T attacks. So if Israel goes into an area and does what they do, they're doing it in retaliation for T attacks. As for this massive shelling you're talking about and telling
Uh-huh.
people to move around,
Uh-huh.
this is not really happening. So, I mean, yeah. So, any other displacement that you claim is happening?
Yeah, I'm certain in Ramallah of West Bank,
Okay.
there's your city. There's been mass shellings and
So you
attacks.
got. So somebody said Ramallah in the comments section. So
No, I
you.
can Google it
So
and
you
show you
think?
on the
Okay,
computer.
go ahead. I mean, if you have another phone, don't do it on this phone. You're
I can
claiming
do it
there's
on the
been
computer.
mass shellings and attacks in Ramallah with the $1 million homes in the middle of Ramallah. That's your claim. That's the hill.
Sure.
That's the hill you want to die on. That there's been mass
No, I
shellings
can show you. It's not a problem. I
and
can show you.
attacks on in Ramallah.
Yeah.
That's the hill you want to die on. Oh, okay,
And it's not a hill I'm gonna die on. It's what I can show you.
okay,
It's what I can absolutely show you.
okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, here, look.
I don't need to. I don't want to screen share. I just want you to just.
No, I'm gonna show you. I've got a laptop.
No, please don't show me anything. Just tell me the name of the article. Dude,
Okay.
don't show me anything.
Sure.
Please just tell me the name of the reliable news article that claims there's mass shelling in Ramallah.
The humanitarian aid, United Humanitarian Aid
Aid.
newsletter, newsletter. There's like there's so many. It's kind
so
of
many that
it's
says
kind of
there's
on you.
shelling
You
in
can literally
Ramallah.
Google it and you'll see like 15 news articles of damage in West Bank where there was no
But you
reports of
said
H
Ramallah
groups.
specifically. You said Ramallah is having mass shelling.
Uh, I'm the good guy, by the way. Comments. I'm not the.
Yeah,
I'm
he's the
not.
good guy. Yeah,
I'm the
okay.
good guy.
You're the
I'm the
good,
good guy.
reliable news guy that said there's mass
I
shelling.
didn't say there was. I'm saying there's. You don't think? Hold on. Let me ask you a question. You don't think there's attacks in the West Bank right now?
I mean,
You don't
listen,
think that?
can I please answer, or do you just want to
Sure.
talk over me?
No, I'm asking you a question. Please answer.
There's T attacks happening in the West Bank, and the IDF is going after the T people, and so is the Palestinian Authority. But mass shelling,
But
not.
why? So then, why is the Israeli army running over food like food carts and attacking civilians?
Running
placing.
over food carts and attacking civilian.
Yeah, I could show you them. I could show you the
Hold
videos now.
on, okay, let's move
They're
on from this.
It's actually exploding all over TikTok and Instagram right now.
Okay, let's move on from this. Where? Okay, tell me about the displacement in the West Bank. Do you know anything about the displacement in the West Bank? Who's being displaced in the West Bank?
Palestinians, civilian Palestinians.
Okay, well, I get they're Palestinians. I got that. I got this.
Yeah.
That. But like who? Like who in the West Bank?
Civilians.
Who? Like what villages? Who? How?
I don't know the names off the top. I'm not the news
So
guy.
you don't know. So you don't know. So you don't know.
I do know Israel is attacking the West Bank right now, even
Okay, so
though
you
there
tell
were
me
zero.
about
Hold on, let me
so you
finish.
don't know the names of the
Please let me
villages
finish
that are being
something.
displaced.
Can I finish
You don't
something?
know. You don't know how they're being displaced.
Let me
You
finish
don't know the
something.
laws under they're being displaced. You don't know about evictions,
Can I
demolitions.
finish something? Can I finish something and then you dispute
Okay.
it?
Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad. The reason why we're doing this exercise is I'm going to tell you something. If you were seriously going to advocate for the Palestinians,
Jenny,
hold on.
Ahmed, Fatma.
Quiet. Andrea's talking.
Hi, teacher. My bad. My bad.
Okay. Go ahead, call me teacher. I know you're being
My bad.
like derogatory, but go ahead. If you were seriously going to advocate for the Palestinians on a serious level, besides these whatever TikTok lives, you would have to know Pacifics, right? If you were really going to be a good advocate for the Palestinians, I guarantee you. First of all, I do advocate for the Palestinians at times, and I know the Pacifics. I know who's being displaced. I know why they're being displaced, and some of it is totally unfair. It's true. I know the laws they're being displaced under.
Are you Israeli?
Excuse me, let me finish. I know who's displacing them, but you are like, oh, they're just being like, you don't know anything.
I can give you points, but you don't let me speak.
Let me finish.
You don't let me speak.
What
Okay.
I say, let me finish. This is why I say you guys don't know how to advocate for anything. Because unfortunately, I'm really trying to help you here. Because if you really want to help the Palestinians, instead of just saying, oh, they're being displaced and talking about some nonsense shelling that isn't happening, you'd actually find out about. I'll give you an example. I'll give you something to
Let
go
me
look up.
speak. Let me speak, and then you can make these
Let
crazy
me say something.
claims.
I'm trying to help you. You find out, for example, about Masfer Yatta. There's something for you to Google. Go Google Masfer Yatta. Find out about that. And then you'd actually have something to actually advocate for. But
Can I say
instead,
something?
You don't know about any of it. You're just
Can I
like,
say something? Can I say
displacement.
something
Okay,
you don't know?
nice word.
Can I say something you might not know about the Jewish
Go
culture?
ahead, teach me, please.
What? Okay, so what is the time Hasidim? Who are they?
Dude, what does this have to do with the Palestinians?
Everything. What is this? What is the time Hasidim? That's a part of. That's a specific group of people in Israel. You tell me, and it's about the conflict. So what are they? Since I don't know much, I don't know nothing. I didn't do any research. Who are the Zatayim Hasidim? What are they? What are they?
You're gonna tell me.
Do you not? Do you know? Yes or no? That's the question.
I don't even care. But what is the
Okay, so no, if you don't care, there's no sense in trying to divulge
Yeah, but
into
go
it.
ahead. Tell me who these Hasidim are. Go ahead.
The group of Jews that follow the actual Torah and don't agree with the
Okay, so
land of
you're trying
Israel.
to okay. So these are some anti-Zionist Jews who have a certain interpretation, and okay. So I don't care. Like,
Okay, let's move on. And like I said, if you don't care, let's move on.
Breaking Bad. Can I educate you on something?
No, I want to speak now.
Breaking Bad.
I just listened
You're
to
going to
you.
be quiet. You're going to be quiet because I'm Jewish and I'm going to tell you about Jewish people. There's a whole bunch of different Hasidic groups, right? There's like tons of them, right? A majority of them, okay, are okay. No, I'm not going to say that. Okay, there's anti-Zionist Hasidic groups. There's ones that are neutral, and then there's ones that are pro-Israel. The largest Hasidic group is actually pro-Israel, which is the one I'm part of. Okay. There are anti-Zionist Hasidic groups, but it's not that they're following the Torah and we're not. They have different interpretations of things than we do, but it's not mainstream Judaism. They are like 1% of the Jewish world, and they follow something that the rest of the Jewish world doesn't. That a majority of Hasidic groups and a majority of Orthodox Jews do not follow, right? It's a fringe interpretation, right? Like I said, the largest Hasidic group is pro-Israel and doesn't follow that interpretation. And there's a bunch of other Hasidic groups that don't follow it as well. So you're taking some fringe person's opinion. And by the way, if they don't like Israel, what the fuck are they doing living there? So that's kind of weird. But the
They don't
point
live
is,
there.
the point is that like, you're taking some people and tokenizing them because you're like, oh, they're the real Jews because they follow something I agree with, when you don't know anything about Judaism or the Jewish community, right? So honestly, like, it's like me taking some fringe imam's opinion, because let's say I'm an Islamophobe and being like, oh, this is Islam,
Are you an
and when it's not
Islamophobe?
even what mainstream Muslims believe,
Are you an
and people
Islamophobe?
actually do that sometimes.
Are you an Islamophobe?
I'm not, but I'm just saying,
Okay.
if someone
So
was and they pulled up some opinion that some fringe imam said, and said this is what Muslims believe, but it's not what mainstream Islam says. And a lot of Islamophobes do that. And you're saying that if someone who whatever
well,
wants to do whatever to the Jewish community, you're pulling up some fringe opinion as if it's Judaism, and it isn't.
well, can
It's
I ask you
something
something?
that some
Okay,
Jews believe,
I heard
but
you.
it's
I
not
heard you.
mainstream
I
Judaism.
understand what you're saying, ma'am. I understand what you're saying. Can I ask you another question, please?
Yeah, this is not a live about religion. We're not talking anymore
I
about
know. I'm
Judaism.
talking about the conflict. I care
Dude,
about
dude,
the
dude, dude, dude,
conflict.
if you're going to bring up anything more about Jews, I'm just going to remove you.
I'm
This
not
is
bringing
not
up
about
Jews.
Judaism, Jews.
I'm
Talk
not.
about the Palestinians.
I'm
You're
talking
here to talk
about.
about the
I'm talking
Palestinians.
about Palestine and
Dude,
Israel.
dude,
That's
we're
what I
here
want
to
to talk.
talk about Palestinians. Anything more about Jews, I'm going to remove you.
Okay. So what do you think should happen with the Palestinians right now? What do you think? Do you think Palestinians
You
should
are
own
here.
Gaza?
You are here to advocate for the Palestinians. Do you have any more information about what's going on with the Palestinians? Obviously.
Absolute. I have a lot, but I need to be
Okay,
able to
go
speak,
ahead,
and you
go
don't let me
for it.
talk much.
Go ahead, go for it. Tell me your information about what's going on with the Palestinians.
Well, right.
Educate me.
Okay, so I'll start with the amount of civilians that have been unalived in West Bank and in Gaza. You want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about the amount of rubble and damage between both property areas, both areas of
Okay, so
Palestine?
how many people? So you're claiming? Okay, you do realize that the people who have been unalived in the West Bank, a majority of them are T people. You do realize that. You do realize that Israel's going after T people in the West Bank. Do you realize the large amount of T attacks that happen in the West Bank and Israel that are coming from the West Bank? Do you realize that a T attack happens in the West Bank and Israel sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes every single day? You do realize that, right?
What's
Do
your
you realize those
source?
T attacks?
What's your source of
Like
information?
I read the news. Like it's reported. Like
Wow. So which
there's
news? Which
people. Hold on,
news channel
excuse
do you
me. Breaking
use?
Bad. Breaking Bad. Let me
It's
talk.
Breaking Biker. My
What are
name
you
is Breaking
saying?
Biker.
Breaking Biker. Listen, the bottom line is that there's people who are like injured in these attacks. There's videos of the attacks. There's people who are like the Palestinian person is usually unalived or arrested.
Which news source? Which news source?
Dude, I read reliable news from the
Which one?
from the region.
Which news source do you use?
I mean, well, I usually hear about the T attacks from the Times of Israel, but the Palestinians also reported them as well because the
You don't,
Palestinians get. Let me finish because the Palestinians, a lot of these people get much joy from these T attacks because they unalive Israelis or injure them.
you don't think that, and this is a genuine question, you don't think that the Israeli Times is a little biased to the
I
situation?
mean, the Times of Israel shows the good, the bad, and the ugly about Israel. I mean, a lot of pro-Palestinians use the Times of Israel articles to argue against Israel because they show bad stuff about Israel too.
They show the
So
inconsist.
the
The
Times of
only
Israel.
time a
Can I
pro
please
pally would.
finish? Can I please? I'm trying to answer you, but you keep interrupting me. The Times of Israel is just called Times of Israel because it's about Israel and the occupied West, I mean the occupied territories.
Okay, can I speak now?
Go ahead.
The only time I believe a pro Palestinian advocate would use the Israeli Times is to show the inconsistencies of news lettering.
No, that's not true.
Can I finish?
That's not
Bro,
what
it's
you're.
not. It's
But
almost.
what you're saying is not true. The people use the Times of Israel all the time because the Times of Israel is constantly like saying what the IDF does, whether it's good or bad. They say what the settlers do, whether it's good or bad. The Times of Israel says what's going on in the region, whether it's good or bad.
Fine,
I
so let
think
me
you
ask you another
should read the
question.
Times of
Let's
Israel.
fine.
You
If you're
you
saying,
literally brought up the Times of Israel
oh,
the other
cool,
day
no,
tonight in the
let's stay on it.
blog.
Fine, let's stay on it. So you trust the Times of Israel? You trust that source? Yes.
It's accurate, yes.
Okay, so what about at the very beginning of the conflict? They said 80 very young babies were unalived a very specific way. And then that was found out to not be true. Did
With all due respect, I'm not going to get into the debate of
But
the
isn't
80.
that a source where it's not that shows it's not reliable?
First of all, I'm not going to debate the baby thing. I'm not doing
But
this.
but
Dude, I don't
but
know, dude. With all due respect, I'm not debating the babies thing. What
that's
I'm
the
not,
Israeli Times.
dude, I'm not debating. Also, the Times of Israel, what they do is they say such and such said that this happened. So if they report in the Times of Israel, they would say, for example, the IDF said that 80 babies. So they're reporting that the IDF said it. So
Right.
you can believe whether the IDF is true or not, but the Times Visual is reporting that such and such said it. So
If the IDF said
the
something
Times of
untrue,
Israel isn't saying it's the word of God. They're saying that
right?
this person, for example, the Times of Israel also says what H group says. And the Times of Israel also says what the Palestinian Authority says. And the Times of Israel also says what Ben Gavir says. And the Times of Israel also says what Palestinian Islamic Jihad says. They say what everybody says. Now, is that what everybody's saying true? Not all the
Well, I mean,
time.
I've just
Let me
shown.
finish. Oh
I'm
my
sorry.
fucking God. Let me
Sorry.
finish.
Sorry.
Is what everybody's saying true all the time? No. But the Times of Israel doesn't say it's their opinion. They say this is what such and such said. So again, they're just reporting what different people said. I mean, they say what Trump says half the time, and Trump is saying bullshit. So again, they're just reporting the news. So again, I'm not commenting on 80 babies. We're not doing this bullshit again. I'm just saying they're just reporting the news. Okay, go ahead. But I don't even know if they wrote that. But go ahead.
Well, what you just said was that the information came from the IDF, and if the
I
IDF
don't know
isn't to
if
be,
it came from the IDF. I'm just saying that wherever it came from, if they reported it, they said where it came from because they always say where it comes from.
can I speak now uninterrupted? Is that
Dude,
possible?
we're not going over the 80 babies thing. Do you
I'm
have
not talking about the 80
talking
babies.
about the
Can I speak uninterrupted
Palestinians?
now?
Dude, just I bet you've never even read a Times Visual article. You've just read the blogs. So with all due
I
respect,
work with the Kiva. I work with the biggest Israeli artists in. I work with like some, and that's because I'm an entertainer. So it's not like I'm anti-Jew because I'm not.
with all due
So can I
respect, you
finish my
work with
point?
Israeli
Can I
artists, and
finish
this
a
is where
point?
you
Can
talk
I
about
finish some point?
Israelis.
Can I
Oh my
finish some
God,
point?
this is scary. This is absolutely frightening.
Can I
Honestly,
just speak?
Do the Israeli artists know like how you feel about them?
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
actually really
I've
scary.
worked with the Kiva. I've worked with Yitzi. I work with all the Mendy Herschel bands. I'm in New York. I'm from New York. But you got to let me speak. And yes, I propagate still the same because my beliefs don't change depending on who's in front of me. But to get back to what you just said, let's not talk about the 80 babies. Fine. What the other thing you just said in your long rant was that the IDF gave information and it
I
wasn't
just told you I don't know if the IDF gave it on. I was just using that as an
okay.
example.
Well, let
I'm
me
saying
speak,
if
and
the
then
IDF,
you can do whatever you're gonna do now. Let me
honestly,
speak.
this point, you're harping on this one point, and I'm
I
just
haven't made a new point. You
I
won't let me
just,
speak.
dude. The point is that whoever gives the information,
Uh
the
huh.
Times of Israel just says they gave it. I don't want to get into like this person said it, that person. I don't know who gave the information.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
who knows who gave it? Maybe it was some
Okay. Let me
reporter
speak
gave
now.
it.
I
I don't
understand
know.
what you're
Like
saying, and I
let's move
respect it.
on. This
I
is like a
respect it.
year
Let me
ago.
speak.
Unless we pull up the article, we
Let me
don't know
speak.
who gave it. So let's move on. Let's talk
Okay.
about
Let's
the
move on. Let's
Palestinians
move on.
again.
Let's move
Dude, the
on. Let's move
Palestinians,
on.
like you. I don't think you care much about the Palestinians
Let's move
because
on.
you're not
Let's
talking
move
about them.
on. Let's move on. Let's talk about the humanitarian groups that went to Gaza to deal with the rubble and the deaths of the Palestinians. And why was
Unaliving. Please use TikTok friendly words. And if
oh,
I have to
excuse
yell
me.
over you one more time, I'm removing
Sorry,
you and
I
blocking you.
forgot. Excuse
I'm
me.
tired of
So
yelling
let's
over
move on.
you. And
Let's move on.
I'm probably upsetting my neighbors because I'm yelling so loud. So please don't make me yell anymore. One more time I have to raise my voice, you're gone.
Okay, no problem. Now, this specific conflict, more than 10 times the reporters who are not involved with the conflict have passed away. That's more than
Breaking Bad, I have to interrupt you again. First
sure.
of all, the problem with Gaza and the problem with journalism in general, and I have to
I'm
say,
trying to be TikTok
don't
friendly.
interrupt
Sorry.
me. Don't
No,
interrupt
I'm
me.
answering your comments. I'm trying to be
No,
TikTok friendly, guys.
don't answer the
Be
comments.
TikTok friendly.
Don't
TikTok
interrupt
friendly.
me. Don't interrupt me to answer the comments. You interrupt me one more time, you're removed and blocked. Last warning. Wallahi, last warning. Last
Okay.
warning.
Okay.
Okay. The problem with people is that everybody and their brother claims they're a journalist. unless you work for a reputable publication, and I'm saying this as someone who was a journalist, unless you work for a reputable publication and you're published in that publication, I don't believe in citizen journalism. You're not a journalist, okay? Just because you buy a press vest, put it on, and you take out a cell phone camera and you
Uh-huh.
record something, that doesn't make you a fucking journalist, okay? Yes, if you work
Language.
for, as much as I don't like Al Jazeera, it's a publication. If you work for Al Jazeera or the AP or Reuters or New York Times or New York Post, you're a journalist if you're published in them. But no, if you just take out your cell phone and record things, you're not a journalist, okay? You're a TikToker, okay? Currently, right now, I'm not a journalist. I don't work for a publication, okay? If I were to put journalist on my Twitter bio, I would be lying to everybody, okay? It is an insult to journalism and journalists all around the world, real journalists, for all these people to be considered journalists, because they're not. They're just random people with cell phones. And the bottom line is, as poor as the Gazans claim to be, they all seem to be able to afford cell phones and chargers, and they all seem to be reporting everything in Gaza, and they all seem to be claiming to be journalists. Like everybody and their brother, their second job, if maybe their only job, quote unquote, is they're all journalists.
Can I speak now? Because I was trying to make a point and you interrupted me in the middle of my point.
Go
Can
ahead.
I speak now? Okay. So maybe some of them aren't actual journalists. Maybe. I'll give you
Okay.
that because whatever. Like I said, the number probably includes actual journalists that are legal journalists. Also, by the way, in Israel, there's
So
freedom.
Breaking Bad, let me just point out to you,
Breaking
in
Biker. My
conflict,
name is Breaking Biker. That's my
dude, I'm
name.
gonna get it wrong. You're gonna have to get over it.
Sweet.
The bottom line is that in every conflict zone, look how many journalists have been unalived in Ukraine, Syria, Yemen, Mexico. When Shireen got unalived, I think it was 2 days before, 2 days later, two journalists got unalived in Mexico. So with all due respect, journalists know that if they're in conflict zones, they're risking their lives. Like it's dangerous when pew pews are going back and forth and boom booms are dropping, and that's unfortunately the risk that journalists take when they're filming, reporting, whatever they're doing in the middle of a war zone. Like you're risking your life when you're filming. I'll give you an example. There was a guy who wasn't a journalist, but he was shooting a TikTok video in the middle of like it was in the West Bank. It was like the IDF and some T group were pew pewing at one another, and he literally got in the middle of it and started filming a TikTok live, like crazy. Bullets are flying, and you're filming a TikTok live, and it got pew pewed by. It was can't remember who pew pewed him. What it was, the IDF or the T people. But honestly, like it's crazy. It's almost like someone here in Brooklyn getting in the middle of the police and some criminals pew pewing back and forth and deciding to shoot a video and then expecting not to get pew pew down. It unfortunately happens. It's what happens when you're filming in a dangerous situation.
Okay, can I finish? You interrupted my point again. Can I finish my final?
Go
Can
ahead.
I
Go
try to
ahead.
make this point if it's possible, and then
Go
you can
ahead. Go
come
ahead. Go ahead.
retort whether their press vest is real or not. The number of unalived press members trying to record and live the situation for the Gazans and West Bank have been unalived tenfold comparative to any. I'm going to use the word conflict because it's TikTok friendly, but conflict throughout history. Not 10 times the number of press vests and unalivement. 10 times
But you do realize that
WW2
everybody in the region literally has a press vest. I mean, they're literally buying them they're
and
literally creating. They're literally making press vests like out of their own backyards, and literally they're all putting them on. I mean, if you watch around Gaza, you probably pass like when you pass 20 people, you probably see 15 of them wearing press
you know
vests.
the law, you
They're
know
all wearing
United
press
Nations
vests.
law, Geneva laws is you can't unalive somebody wearing a press vest. You know
I
you
mean,
can't.
I mean, I think the law is more like try not to unalive them, but
You can't. Well,
reality is
if they
sometimes you
find a
gotta
poop,
unalive.
a pew. You said pew pew, so I'm gonna use pew pew.
The reality is it's a conflict zone. Like, I mean,
But
like,
if
I
they
mean,
find pew
also,
pews in
also,
them,
also, if they're a T person wearing a press vest, then you're allowed to unalive them. If they're a T person, if they're literally like a member of H group and they're just putting on a press vest doesn't protect you if you're a T person, or if you're someone wearing a press vest, pew pewing at a soldier, that doesn't protect you.
well, if a press if a person of the press has a
But
pew
they're
pew
not. But these
in
people
their head,
who you're claiming are people of the press happen to also be tea people. A lot of them,
let's
like
move on. You're right. How could I
even
think
the
they're
people,
people of
even
the
the
press?
people. But let me
Let's move
finish.
on.
Even the people who were working for publications, like a bunch of the Al Jazeera journalists, turned out to be also age group members that were very active age group members who were committing tea attacks. Who actually, some of them participated in October 7th. Even some of the AP journalists and Reuters journalists participated in October 7th. So with all due respect, like this whole the press is so innocent and they don't do anything and we should protect them. Like you're protecting tea people who are press people if you're
All
protecting
right. Do you
press people.
alignment is acceptable between the Palestinians, not T people. I'm talking. Do you think the ratio is acceptable between Palestinians and Israelis of unalignment? Do you think that
I mean,
ratio
the
is
thing about
acceptable?
it is that I think the thing. Okay, let me tell you. Let me just lay this out to you. Okay.
Sure, please.
Hold on, hold on. Breaking Bad. Let me just
Right, breaking biker.
Breaking Biker. Please stop correcting me. We get it. It's Breaking
I'm gonna
Biker.
correct my. You're gonna. I'm gonna respect you, so you're gonna respect me. And please say my
I
name
do
correctly.
respect you. I do respect you, but I'm tired, and I honestly don't even want to go on with this live. So the fact that I'm going on with it, you're gonna have to excuse the name problem.
Just try to be
Okay.
respectful. That's all.
I believe me, I'm being
Try.
respectful. Okay. Let me just make a couple points here. First of all, if the T groups in Israel Palestine could, they would unalive every Israeli on the planet. A. But they can't because the Israelis have stopped them. Two, when the IDF goes and does a raid on a let's say Jenin, right? The Palestinians come out and attack them like crazy. They throw Molotov cocktails, they throw rocks, they pew pew them, explosives, the whole thing. The only reason the Palestinians end up unalived and the IDF comes back, usually not even injured. Sometimes they come back injured and unalive, but usually not. It's just because the IDF are better fighters than the Palestinians. That's the reality. So, it's not like the Palestinians don't want to unalive the IDF and the Israelis. It's that they're less successful at it than the IDF who's trying to defend themselves or go after the T people. So it's like here's the situation. It's either going to be the T people who are attacking the IDF and the Palestinians, the neighbors who come out with the Molotov cocktails and the rocks and the pew pews, or it's going to be the IDF that goes down. So the thing is, the IDF, fortunate for them, they often win the battle. So that's the thing. Like it's the thing about it is that the IDF is just better at the game.
So then the answer is yes. You think the ratio is acceptable?
I'm not. Listen, it's not even about ratio. It's not about numbers.
It is.
It's the fact. It's the fact. It's the fact that if it weren't, listen, if a raid happened and they unalived all the IDF, instead of a few Palestinians going down, if Palestinians even go down, or the IDF weren't able to defend themselves against the Palestinians, then it would be the IDF that would go down. So do I want unalived Israeli soldiers, or do I want unalived T people? Like that's the question.
I
I'd
didn't
rather
ask
have
that question.
unalived T people.
I asked, is the ratio of Palestinians
I answered your
Israelis?
question. I answered it the way I'm going to answer it, and I'm done.
But you ignored my question.
I
My question
answered. I
had to do
literally
with
answered your
not the
question.
T people. I'm not
I,
speaking
I,
of the
lit- I
T people.
literally, I literally answered your question because that's who the IDF is going after. They're going after T people.
But
So
what about all the innocent
I
Palestinians that have been
there
unalive?
is collateral damage in any war. It's happened in every war in the history of war, and that is very sad and unfortunate. And that's why people avoid war because, unfortunately, in every war, innocent people get unalived. It's a fact of war. There are some unjustified unalivings that the IDF has done, and those things are investigated, and those people are punished. I don't think they're punished as much as they should be, but they are punished. But that happens far and few between. But the thing is, the IDF, as an army, a total army, they try to avoid civilian casualties. They don't go after civilians. If there's some rogue soldier that does an awful act of purposely unaliving a civilian, the millions of people serving the IDF. Of course, there's going to be a few bad apples, just like there is in the American military, just like there is in Arab armies, European armies. There's bad cops and police forces. Armies are run by human beings, not by prophets or gods. There's always going to be mistakes that happen. And those mistakes are very unfortunate and sad. But the IDF as a total army is trying to do the best they can in a very, very bad, awful, hard situation. And that's truly why I support the IDF.
I think the Palestinians have it a little rougher because
I
the
think the
Palestinians don't have
Palestinians,
an iron dome. Let me finish a point, ma'am. I just listened to you speak for 2 minutes. Palestinians have it rougher because they don't have an iron dome. The Palestinians have it rougher because I'm talking Palestinians. You wanted me to advocate for Palestinians, not T group Palestinians. The Palestinians are using rocks and Molotov cocktails, like you said.
and they're using pew pews and boom booms, and they're blowing themselves up, and they have
Right, right,
all
right.
kinds of, they
And
have all
then
kinds
in
of weapons.
retaliation to them trying to use rocks and Molotov cocktails and
Okay,
pew
but
pews.
listen, breaking. It's their choice that they chose
I'll
never to
finish.
build.
Why don't
Hold
you
on,
ever let me
breaking.
finish?
I have to interject and say it's their choice.
But when I do it, you threaten to throw
Biker,
me out.
breaking biker. It's their choice that they chose not to build bomb shelters for themselves in Gaza. That in the tunnels, and H group has been quoted as saying this. They only hide their fighters. They don't hide their civilians from boom boom attacks. They don't put civilians in there. They only put fighters in those tunnels to hide them from boom boom attacks. They don't care about the civilians. That's their choice. That they don't choose to shelter their own people. That's their choice. Another thing is that the Palestinians, they've done a lot of counterproductive things, right? Doing T attacks has not gotten them a Palestinian state. It's gotten them international people upset with them, more settlements, more their people injured and unalive, more restrictions on them, further away from a two-state solution. It's gotten them 40 steps backwards instead of 10 steps forward. The only thing it's gotten them is the satisfaction they get from unaliving and injuring Israelis. So it's counterproductive. So they're really only harming themselves by continuing to do this. Peaceful resistance is the only thing that's ever gotten them anywhere.
So, okay, fine. You don't think that the two-state solution was absurd, not because Palestinians don't want that, but because Israel wanted to expand and keep expanding?
I mean, I don't think Israel wants to expand. I mean,
That's
except maybe the situation with the West Bank and Gaza, which there's different thoughts on that. But the bottom line is that the Palestinians have always wanted rivers to the sea. They've always wanted
You
all
don't
the land.
think
But
Israel
I'm
wants
not
to
done
expand?
finished. I'm not finished talking. They've always wanted all the land, and they were offered almost half the land in 1947. They turned that down. They were offered two-state solutions. They turned that down. As long as they want all the land and are not willing to live in part of the land, there's never been peace. There's never going to be peace.
Do you think Israel wants to expand? Yes or no? Yes or
I
no? That's
think
it.
Israel might want to annex the West Bank, and there's people in the Israeli camp that want to resettle Gaza. But as for like this greater Israel, that's just like some right wing people that's never going to come into fruition. Taking over Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, that's just fairy tales that some crazies think. But no,
Do you
nobody in the
think
government wants to do
Do
that.
you think it's acceptable that Russians and Canadian forces and other countries are sending military aid to fight the battle for Israel itself? Do you think that's
I
acceptable?
mean, I mean, the thing about it is the Russians aren't sending. I don't think the Russians are sending aid to Israel.
Well,
But
a third of the military in the IDF is Russian Goyim.
okay,
You didn't know
putting
that?
that aside, listen. With
Oh,
all
we're
due
fighting
respect,
that? Okay,
The
sorry.
Palestinians get aid. They get humanitarian aid from the United States, and they get military aid from Iran. So, I mean,
I didn't say aid was bad. I'm asking, do you think it's acceptable for
do I
the
think it's okay for the Americans to send Israel military aid? Yes, because the Americans get a lot from Israel. The American situation with Israel is a partnership. The Americans get more from Israel than Israel gets from America, and the
well, with that
Americans
logic, can
and the
Palestine
Americans
receive
and the
aid from other
Americans get
countries?
nothing from the Palestinians, but they give tons. At least they were before the Trump administration, giving tons to the Palestinians.
Fine? If you think it's okay for America to give aid to Israel, do you think it's okay for Iran to give aid to Palestine?
Well, they're funding T groups. That's different. I
So
don't think it's good for any. I don't think it's okay for anybody to fund T groups. Do you support T groups? Do you think supporting T
no,
attacks is okay?
no. I'm talking
Okay,
about
so that's
Palestine.
the thing. So I don't
I'm
think
speaking
I
about
don't think
Palestine.
anybody who supports ISIS or Al Qaeda, any of these groups, I don't think anybody should support any of these groups because the bottom line is, let me tell you something, Breaking Biker. is if these groups ever come to America like they have in the past, they don't care if you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Arab, white, whatever you are. If you're in their way, they're just gonna,
Let me ask you a question.
well,
Do you think Arabs dislike Jews?
it depends on the Arab. Some Arabs dislike Jews, some Jews dislike Arabs, Arabs like Jews, some Jews like Arabs. People aren't
So,
a monolith. People aren't a monolith. People have different opinions. This live is about Palestine. Why don't we get back to Palestinians? See, you're not even talking about Palestinians. You're
well, I
on,
am. I'm trying to make a point. You just keep interrupting me. So, if Palestine was an 11 group that deserves a two-state,
Palestine is not.
oh my
You mean
God, you just don't
thing
want to
is
listen.
Palestine? There is no Palestine. What Palestine?
What do you mean? You don't think Palestine exists?
There's no Palestinian state or country.
No.
Well, where's the Palestinian state? Where
What do
is
you
it?
call Gaza? Is Gaza just Gaza?
Gaza's not a state. Gaza's a strip. It's not a
So the
state.
strip of what? Where does that strip belong to?
It's an occupied territory.
Of what? Of who?
It's
Of who?
okay, dude.
Occupied
Hold on.
territory of who?
Can I explain it to you? Can I explain it to you?
I know, no, I know what you're
No,
calling
no,
it.
no.
What?
Breaking biker. Breaking biker. You have to be quiet.
Wow.
You have to be quiet. You have to be quiet.
I'm gonna be quiet.
You have
Yes,
to be
ma'am.
quiet.
Yes, ma'am.
The reason why it's called the occupied Palestinian territories is basically people are trying to be politically correct, and someday, inshallah, that area will go to the Palestinians. But it was occupied from Egypt and Jordan. It was never in the sovereignty of the Palestinians. It doesn't belong to the Palestinians, as in like the
No.
Palestinians have sovereignty over it. I mean, in Gaza, kind of, sort of. The Hamas is governing it, and Israel kind of gave it to the Palestinians. But when you think about it, since Israel, we're talking prior October 7th, since Israel had a blockade over it, Israel was really the overlord over it. Even Palestinians will tell you this. The fact that Israel was
Hold the phone. Put the brakes.
let me finish. The fact that
Okay.
Israel was able to have a complete blockade over it and control what went in and out of it shows that it's an occupied territory, that the Palestinians didn't have total complete control over it. Just like the West Bank is an occupied territory, right? Area A and Area B, the Palestinians have civil control, and Area A, they also have military control. But again, the Israelis have control over that. Even the Palestinian passports, the Israelis partly control that. So with all due respect, if you can to consider that the Palestinians have real true sovereignty over anything, then you don't know much about Israel-Palestine.
Well, let me ask you a question. If I don't know much, during the Second World War, where
Dude,
did the,
we don't talk about World War II here.
why not?
We don't talk about World War II
Okay,
here.
okay, why not?
Because we don't. This is a rule of the live. We don't talk about World War II.
But okay,
Okay.
so then
Okay, we're
okay,
moving on. We're moving on. All right, so we're
okay,
gonna review. We don't.
1945. Yeah, we're moving on. We're moving on.
This is not a history lesson. What about today? What is your point? The point is there's never been a
What
Palestinian.
is wrong with you?
Dude,
Listen to the question.
there's never been a Palestinian state or country. There's
Okay,
never been.
so what was it called in 1945? That's my question.
It was the British Mandate of Palestine.
So what's that? So what? British
Listen.
Mandate of Palestine.
I'm going to explain it to you. If you're quiet, I'm going to explain it to you.
Go ahead, explain it.
British, okay. Palestine, if you look up in a Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is a region with changing and disputed boundaries. So it's a region. It's a region named by the Greeks and the Romans. It's a region. It included Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel, the West Bank, Gaza at one point, and now some people say that it just includes Israel, West Bank, and Gaza. Some people just say it includes West Bank and Gaza. It's a region. The British had a mandate over that region, British Mandate of Palestine. Okay? It was a mandate over the Palestinian region, right? So the British had a mandate. The Palestinians didn't have a sovereign state. It was a British mandate over the Palestinian region. And that included Jordan, Israel, West Bank, and Gaza. And at one point included Israel, West Bank, and Gaza. Okay?
It
So
didn't
the
exist.
British mandate.
Okay, so to rebut that statement that you just made, because we're not
Okay.
going to talk about World War II. We don't do that. So let's
Okay.
talk about what you just said. To speak on what you just said, you're right. It was British, I'll call it whatever you like, British Mandate of Palestine, right? After something happened in history that we don't talk about, it, there was an establishment by NATO. NATO then decided to fairly divvy up some land so
That's
that
not what happened. But that's not what happened.
I'll finish, lady.
First of all,
Lady, can I
ma'am,
please
ma'am,
finish?
ma'am,
You
sir,
can
sir,
tell me I'm wrong when I'm done.
sir,
Tell me
sir,
I'm
sir,
wrong when I'm
sir,
done.
sir, sir, sir. First of
I'm
all,
about to steal
sir,
all your live goers. Like, I'm
sir,
about to leave, go on live, and they'll come with me. I'm
sir,
certain of it. So let me finish. Let me finish.
okay, sir. First
Let
of
me finish.
all, sir, I have a very, very good video on my link tree. It's a link in my bio. It's called it's an interview between Coleman Hughes and Betty Morris. It's the history of Israel Palestine from 1880 to present day. About 2 years ago when the video was made, and he needs to really, really go look at that video and find the history, because NATO didn't divide anything. The League of Nations did, which was what the UN was called way back then. And listen, if you're gonna come to my live and try to steal my people from my live, then you're just abusing the fact that you were a speaker here. So, have a good day. And you weren't really respectful. You just tried to steal the show, which is what a lot of people try to do. But you really were a bad advocate for the Palestinians. So have a good day and watch that video.